Welcome to another Movie Monday. Today we watched another thing that I saw a while ago when it came out. Although this one I actually wanted to see because I remember it being good, and that was Looper. And I'll be honest, I remembered almost none of this movie.
Oh my god.
I totally forgot the kid was a thing at all, even though that's half the movie. So
The kid's so creepy.
yeah, honestly, the kid is in terms of the acting and stuff is really good.
Yeah, like
So.
his there's so much in his face and his
Mhm.
face is terrifying.
Mhm. Mhm.
I know this kid's was, I guess, small, but oh my god.
I want to
He has
look up
such a terrifying
I
presence.
want to look up who the real person was and see if he does anything else because now I'm curious. But yeah, so okay, the premise of this movie, if you don't know, is that basically it's sort of near future and time travel has not been invented yet, but it will be in the future. But it's illegal. So basically, these criminal organizations, they people who they want to die cleanly, they send them back in the past so they can be killed without a trace, basically.
Hmm.
And the people who kill the people in the past um, are known as loopers. And the whole point is that basically, eventually, their future selves will be sent back and to be killed. And when you kill your future self, that's sort of like your retirement, and then you end up living good life for 30 years before you end up getting sent back. That's the basic premise in terms of the setting of the thing. And I kind of remembered most of that, so I remembered most of this basic setup, but
Hmm.
I I didn't remember much else of the actual story. I remembered visually. I remembered a lot of cornfields. I mean, technically it's cane fields, but still,
Kane,
I
yeah.
remembered that image in my head. So I'm like, okay, I know that's part of the movie, but I don't really remember why. So, but yeah, the actual plot I didn't really remember at all. But I think it's interesting. In terms of it's not just the plot, but it's the characterization because again, the whole thing is about sort of what it's a kind of because again you have the present self and the future self, and they both kind of have an idea about how they should live their life.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting because again, it's sort of the debate of what is correct, and that's because nobody is really correct in this movie, and that's it's just what they think is right in the moment, and you can understand especially in terms of the main characters why they think they're right, you
Hmm.
know. And I also like how again I don't really want to spoil the ending, but the ending is still kind of it doesn't really tell you exactly what the ultimate result of this is, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it doesn't
It
go into
implies
the
it, but it
future.
doesn't tell you, right? So
Yeah.
it's something where it's kind of was that actually the right decision? So yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting movie, um, and in terms of again the acting is done well. One thing that I do what am kind of I thought was kind of annoying is the volume is weird.
It's low, yeah. I
It's
had to
low.
turn up
It's low for
my
most of
volume.
the movie, but then in action and some soundtrack is quite loud. So it's if it was all low, that would be one thing. But it's 80% low, but then 20% not, and then it's just So yeah, that
I
could have
think
been
this
toned
movie
down a
would
bit.
have benefited from subtitles.
Yeah, again, it's talking quietly is the main thing.
I definitely feel like I missed some plot elements because someone did the mixing very poorly.
Yeah, yeah, there is a couple things where I'm wait a minute, am I missing something? And I don't think it was that I missed the dialogue because, for example, when the future, well, Bruce Willis is feeling the future self, when he's coming into the crime guy's base or whatever, and the
Hmm.
crime boss, he seems to recognize him, but then nothing really comes
Right.
from that, and I was like, huh? I was kind of is are we missing something there? I don't know. So
Yeah, I wasn't exactly sure about this. Was the crime boss from the
yes,
future?
they say that he was. So that could again, it kind of makes sense that maybe he could have recognized him, but so what? What's the fault? Why draw attention to that? But then nothing came from that. I think, unless I missed
But
something. I
then
don't know.
but then also if he's a crime boss and he got sent back to the past, does that fuck up the timeline?
I
Because
don't know.
he has to be alive in this timeline because this boss was old. He's an old fart.
Yeah, I mean,
So
they
if
could
he's
just be like he could just be living his own whatever life in the moment.
uh
But yeah, so there's definitely a couple things, and the audio needed a little bit of work with that, kind of making things a bit more audible. I do think like uh, I don't know, just the whole. I don't know. It's like it's hard for me to kind of describe in terms of like because a lot of it is like pretty emotional in terms of like how to interpret things and in terms of how like the characters are acting. So like again, it's very like emotion driven in terms of why they do what they do, and if you can like connect with that and kind of understand again, if you do you understand kind of why they're doing what they're doing. Um,
mhm.
but that makes it kind of hard to talk about. Um, like honestly, I could understand if someone watched this and kind of didn't get into it. But I did still like this quite a bit, though I'm not sure exactly how much. Um, because
I
I
had
don't know.
like a hard time figuring out like if I was engaged sometimes because
Mm,
I guess mostly because could I could not understand exactly what was going on besides like the little bits that I could hear because I didn't want to like turn the volume all the way up and then get deafened by some of the action scenes because yeah the guns are really loud. So there was someone who did not mix the audio properly at all. But then like I guess I don't know. I felt like I could kind of understand like at least the motivations of the lady
mm,
and Bruce Willis. I couldn't really understand the motivations of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, and I don't know how he came to like I guess he explained how he came to the conclusion that he does at the end with what he does, but I'm not sure how he got there unless it was just like, oh wait, enlightenment. I
well,
know what
because
to do now.
yeah, I mean, I guess the idea is just he sort of kind of figured out. He kind of put the pieces together in terms of like, wait, if this happens, then this will probably happen, and then this will probably happen, and oh wait, that lines up perfectly with what I've been told.
Or
So,
maybe I guess it could also be a commentary of like he matures because like that's kind of what Bruce Willis was trying to tell him.
mm,
Like you need to stop being such a brat, and he doesn't until I guess that last moment where he's like, "Oh wait, I get it. I can't be selfish."
mm, yeah,
So
yeah, and I do think like yeah, again, what I think is interesting is how again Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis, like, their characters, again, like neither of them are good really,
yeah,
um, but they're not like they're not like purely evil either. They definitely do some like fucked up stuff, and I mean, this whole thing where like Bruce Willis just like
it comes with the territory.
Bruce Willis just murders a child, and like
Yeah,
and the thing is, but they show that he like because again the whole thing is that he thinks that if he murders a certain child, then he'll like save the world basically. I'm I'm simplifying in the sense of trying to not be super spoilery. Um, and when he realizes that like because again if he would have succeeded, he would have like because he would have changed things, he would have sort of he would have reverted back to his own time. So
yeah,
when that doesn't happen after he murders that first child, you can see it's like he kind of like breaks down for a moment. So it's like again he's not completely heartless about it, but he's just
yeah.
that mindset of like, well, guess I gotta kill a kid. Okay, So it's just I don't know. It's
Time to
something.
kill the next one.
Well, yeah. So, um, it's something that helps, I think, in terms of that, and yeah, I don't know. It's I.
It is hard to talk
It
about. I'm
is
not
hard to
really
talk about,
sure.
but I will say overall it worked for me. Um, and that I am glad I saw it again, and I think there is worth getting. Again, honestly, like I think the kid is actually probably the strongest part, just because it's like it's just holy shit, kind of insane. Um, and I do think for me at least, like I do think the ending has, I think it does have a fairly strong emotional like resonance for me. Um,
Mhm.
so I think that works well. Um, the action overall is like decent. Um, it's not like too super flashy or like it because this is R-rated R, but it's not like it doesn't revel in it, right?
Oh yeah, it I
So
think it cut away a fair bit, which
yeah,
is
or like you see
good.
like you see a red splatter kind of off on the side or whatever, and it's like okay, fine,
Yeah, I
So
mean, we've seen
we've
worse
seen
and
much worse.
R-rated,
Yeah.
so I appreciate that.
The most I guess the most gruesome scene is actually one that's like it's kind of like when you realize what's going on is really fucked up. It's when like it's early on when like the future version of that other character
Yeah,
like that is
that
like
was
that scene's just like oh fuck.
that's messed up.
It's really messed up, but like it works. It's really effective, and like well, the actual effects done for it are interesting. I feel like
Interesting.
well, because like I'm specifically thinking of the part where like with his legs,
Oh
and
yeah.
I'm like for some reason I feel like I did see a breakdown of that scene and how they did it because again it's like he was standing and then he like so
Yeah.
I'm like how did because I want to go and see if I can find that like if I am remembering correctly that I did see a breakdown of like how they did that because I think it came up again in one of those
Mhm.
VFX artists react kind of things, but I might be misremembering. I don't know. I want to see if I can find that again, but yeah, that's effective. Um, I do like how this is like near future, and basically like the whole thing about the future is basically everything's the same except like there's some kind of fanciest new computer stuff. Like that's like
Yeah.
basically, and like they have like the little hover bike thing. Like that's it, and it's like that kind of makes sense more than like because
Yeah.
you've seen how many things have we seen where it's like oh in 20 years like everything is different, and it's like yeah no that's not what
Yeah, no,
happens.
it's not.
So it makes sense that like okay yeah everything's kind of the same except like we have fancier computers now, and also apparently more like poor people, which yeah.
Yeah, makes
That
sense.
seems pretty reasonable to me, to be honest. So, yeah. And also fancy new drugs, which, yeah, it also makes sense. So, um, also, did you notice in kind of the montage showing, like, sort of the future, in the 30 years or whatever, like, the sky kept
Mhm.
getting, like, more and more polluted?
Yeah.
So, it was like, oh, okay, cool.
Like, oh, thanks, guys.
hmm
Okay.
Yeah. So, I don't know. There's a lot of, like, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's like overall well done. Again, the main issue that we both have is the audio mixing.
Mhm.
But in terms of like the characterization and the plot and stuff like that, I don't really have any uh complaints. So I guess it comes down to just like, is the audio mixing too annoying for you? And also, do you sort of can you get invested? Can you connect with what's going on?
Yeah.
So
It's like it works. It
mhm,
doesn't click.
yeah,
That's what it really comes down
yeah.
to.
And again, it overall does for me. Um, but how about for you?
I had a I guess I had a hard time with that. I don't know why. I guess like I usually tend to like these kinds of um like I guess like pondering of one's existence kinds of things, but I guess like it like the way it went about doing it was fine. I guess I just didn't like
Mm,
it's interesting to see how other people do it, certainly. It's just sometimes it just doesn't
yeah,
there's no snap and
yeah,
it's like okay, this is pretty interesting to watch, but do I feel like super duper invested?
hmm
Maybe not.
yeah. I understand that. Again, I could totally see that. Yeah, it did overall work for me. But
I have definitely seen the beginning scene before. I don't know where.
oh
Like the
really?
one where you have Joseph Gordon-Levitt, like, and then the tarp, and then someone appears. And I think when I saw that a few more times, I was like, I've definitely seen this in like some kind of compilation video, but I
I feel
can't
like it could
remember
be. I feel like it could be
what.
some sort of like meme format, something
Yeah,
like
but like
some.
I couldn't place even when I saw it, but
Hmm.
I knew I recognized that image because it's such a strange image.
Yeah.
So at least I remember that, even though
Okay.
I had never seen the movie before.
Hmm. Oh, there was one thing that I think is kind of weird and unnecessary. Uh, it's when like I don't know, 3/4 of the way through, like Joseph Gordon-Levitt and is it Emily Blunt? Is that who the woman at the farmer is? I don't know.
I don't know,
But yeah,
the woman.
I think I saw her name on Wikipedia, whatever. But they have like a sex scene, kind of. I mean, it cuts away like
Yeah.
before it happens, but like that just what was the point of that? Like, that wasn't needed.
There was no build up.
Yeah, well, like it wasn't one of those things where it's like, wow, this is completely unbelievable. It's like no, but it's just not. It doesn't add anything, right? There's just no point to it, right? I think it kind of almost makes it more interesting where here's this guy who's protecting them, and there's not really a connection there. I think that's kind of more interesting in a sense. Or the connection is like a understanding the kid basically. So I don't know. Again, it's not like I hate it, but it's just sort of like okay, why even show it to begin? Whatever. So that was kind of the one thing where I was like, but yeah, I don't know. Anything else to add for this?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, in terms of a rating, I think I'm gonna give it an 8. So
Cool.
it does work pretty well for me. Yeah. I'll go with an 8.
I was gonna go with the 7, so
Okay.
that actually works out pretty well.
Okay, that does work out pretty well then. So yeah, okay. All right. So fairly standard kind of. Well, I don't know. I know. I think it might still be there actually, but I did actually have this movie like in my background section. Because again, I remembered liking it when I watched it like in the past, and I'm like, do I think it should still be there? I don't know. Again, I'm pretty sure it was like kind of at the bottom of like the side, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I
have
feel
time
like it.
to switch things up if
Yeah,
you would like.
if I desire to do so, but what?
Okay, well, what's the next thing we're watching? Because it's gonna be Sunday.
Yes, it's a show Sunday, beginning of April, and it is my turn. And I was kind of like halfway, like I think I'm gonna do this, and that was kind of like my mentality for like a few months actually. But then like I don't know, a couple days ago I was like maybe I'll do something else instead, but I decided like no, I'm gonna do the thing that I originally was gonna do. So we are going to watch an anime.
Yes.
I am offering an anime. And it is Great Pretender.
Ooh. I have wanted to watch this. I recently I didn't really see much besides, the stuff on Twitter. And that can be very tricky territory, but I saw another video by I think Mother's Basement talking about the art.
I did watch their video on that, and
yeah, the art direction is one I didn't expect because it's so not traditional of anime, but I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah, so we're going to be watching the first 5 episodes, because the first 5 episodes are their own. Basically, the show is split up into multiple cases, and the first 5 episodes is the first case. So
that makes sense.
That's what we're going to be watching for that, and and we'll see if Tara is interested to watch that as well. So
yeah,
you can bring her in. But yeah, I saw this early this year, and while watching it, I'm like, I think these two would like it. So here you go.
Very artsy.
Yeah. Okay, so next Sunday, we'll see you with Great Pretender.
Hey, bye.